Pivot tables terminology. Now, before going ahead, let's get ourselves familiar with some basic terms used in pivot tables. Understanding the terminology associated with pivot tables is the first step in mastering this feature. We'll use this image as example to explain the terminology more clearly. The first one is column labels. This is a field that has a column orientation in the pivot table. Each item in the field will occupy a separate column. In our example, its field category is a column label. Row labels. A field that has a row orientation in pivot table. Each item in a row field occupies a row. In our example, both zone and store name are row fields. Report filter. A field that has a page orientation in the pivot table. Similar to a slice of a three-dimensional cube, you can display a single item, multiple items or all items in a field with the help of report filters. Values area. The cells in a pivot table that contain actual summary data. There are 11 ways in which you can summarize your data in values field. In order to apply any type of calculation on field, it has to be in values area. Otherwise, any type of calculation cannot be applied to a field. Subtotals. A row or column that displays a subtotal for cells in a row or column in a pivot table. In our example, there is a subtotal for each branch below the data. Grand totals. A row or a column which displays total of all the cells in a row or column in a pivot table. Our example has grand total for both columns as well as rows. Item. An element in field that appears as row or column header in a pivot table. In our example, gents, kids and ladies collection are the items in category field. Zone field has 4 items: east, west, north and south. Group. A collection of items treated as single item. Grouping can be done manually or automatically. In our example, calendar day field is grouped into months. So we can see only month Jan and not individual dates. Source data. Data used to create a pivot table. It can rest in a same workbook or it can be an external database. We have discussed about source data in detail earlier in the course. Refresh. You need to refresh the pivot table after making changes to source data. It updates the changes in your report by recalculating the pivot tables. This also been discussed with example earlier in the course. Thanks a lot.